when one is existentially dependent on the other, one's identity comes from the other, one's worth comes from the other, then there is a deal. I don't want to study, but parents have said if you don't get promoted to the next class, you won't get the bicycle. So I'll say, fine, I have to earn that promotion. And for that, 40% would suffice, right? Now, how much would I put into my studies? Why law and order machinery is needed? Why morality is needed? Why the policemen and the courtrooms are needed? Because that's why you are afraid of going to places with poor law and order conditions. Think of it. You don't say the people there are bad, you say the law and order condition is bad. Hypocrisy is institutionalized. We are not even regretting it, we are demanding it. We are saying you behave properly. Inwardly, you remain whatever way you want to. You are not what you have become in your thoughts. In your thoughts, you have become. So, hypocrisy. That's the topic for the day. Mithyachari. The most prevalent level of hypocrisy is when restraint is applied only at the gross level, material level, tangible level. Hands are restrained, legs are restrained, words are restrained. Not the inner processes, the inner machine. It is not difficult to see why one would go for restraint at that superficial level. Because that is the level visible to others. If your hands move, others can see. If your throat utters, others can hear. So when others are the judges, the deciders, the standards, then all goodness is just a performance to please the others. And why would the others be the touchstone, the standards? Why would one allow that? Obviously, that would be allowed only when one has stakes with respect to the others. Not just simple day-to-day behavioral stakes, but deep existential stakes. If who I am and what my worth is depends on the judgment, sanction, approval of this person, then I will modify my conduct to appease the expectations of this person. I will modify, but only my conduct, because that is all that he can see. That is the bare minimum needed from my side in the deal. And when there is a deal, you obviously want to do only the bare minimum that is needed to keep the deal, right? Right? If the deal is you pay me 1,000 rupees and I'll serve you for minimum 3 hours, that's the deal. How many hours would I want to serve you to get rupees 1,000? 3 hours. Similarly, when one is existentially dependent on the other, one's identity comes from the other, one's worth comes from the other, then there is a deal. You certify me as good, virtuous, and in return, I will adapt my conduct in such and such ways. Right? Or you please proclaim that I am virtuous, and I'll be virtuous as per your standards. This is better put. You proclaim me to be virtuous because I have no internal light at all anyway. Whether or not I am virtuous depends totally on the sanction of others, this person. So I'm dependent. So I say, kindly provide me that certificate. Write virtuous on it and sign there. My name followed by virtuous, followed by your signature. You do that, please. And I'll be virtuous as per your definitions. That's the deal. You give me the certificate, I am virtuous. And why do I want that certificate? Obviously, there are again stakes. If I am proclaimed virtuous, maybe that will enable me to get a better house. Some material benefit is tied to that certificate. Just as you want a character certificate from your ex-employer or an NOC from your previous institution. You don't want it because you still want to maintain the relationship. You want it because your future benefits are tied to your character certificate or NOC or relieving letter. No? So I want that from him. Please give me that certificate, because some material benefit depends on getting that certificate from the other, from the society. So I want that. Certificate says, you call me virtuous, I'll act virtuous. And the deal has to be kept. But how will he know whether I am virtuous? All that he can see is my tangible, visible, material actions. So I'll act as per his expectations. I'll act as per his expectations. Can he get into my mind and see? No. So the mind will be comfortably allowed to remain as it is in its old ways. Whereas actions would be customized to appear virtuous. This is hypocrisy. This is the mithyachar that Sri Krishna is referring to. 3.6. Do you get this? Please call me respectable. And if you are to call me respectable, obviously you will demand something. Why would you provide a service or a certificate for free? So you say, I'll call you respectable only if you follow the standards of respectability set by me. So here are the standards. But all those standards are verifiable only at the tangible level, right? You want me to follow these standards, I'll say fine. That's the deal. I'll follow the standards set by you. But how much can you verify? You can only verify my conduct. You can only verify my conduct. So you will come and see whether I am adhering to the norms of conduct, the codes of conduct. That's what you will do, right? And I'll display that to you because I have to please you, because I need the certificate. I'll act, but only act, not be. Not be. I'll act as you want me to act. I'll act only as you want me to act. And this should not be difficult to understand, because that's what most of us have been doing all our lives, especially in front of authorities that demand your obeisance. You control certain power. You have a boss, let's say the boss says, you have to contact these many people. Now, you will have to do that because he is the boss and he controls a few things and can pull a few strings. Right? You have to contact these many people. You have to contact 5 more people. 5 more. There would be a particular feeling of guilt. But how deep is the guilt right now? Only skin deep. That's hypocrisy. I will adhere to the codes set by you, but only to the extent you can verify. I'll adhere to the codes set by you, but only to the extent verifiable. Now, what's in the mind is not verifiable. Therefore, it is my sovereign territory. And why should I allow your whip to run here? Why should I allow that? Do you get this? So she's been told, contact these many people. And she will do that because that's coming from the boss. But what is it that the boss can verify? Just the numbers? Just the numbers? Or at most, maybe the boss can ask for the recording. Have you really contacted? Show me. All that is quite tangible. He can never verify whether there was any heart in it. And therefore, the heart, the center, will be allowed to remain as it is. That is hypocrisy. To live in pretense. To be one thing and live as another. Do you get this? Do you also see where all hypocrisy comes from? It comes from a pathetic dependence on the other. I don't really want to follow what you say. But since I'm dependent on you, I'll do as you please. Since I'm dependent, so I'll do what you please. But because I really don't want to do what you say, So I'll do it only at the superficial level. I'll do only the barest minimum needed to keep the deal. Right? I'll do only as much as is needed to clear the grade. I don't want to study. But parents have said if you don't get promoted to the next class, you won't get the bicycle. So I'll say, fine, I have to earn that promotion. And for that, 40% would suffice, right? 40%. Now, how much would I put into my studies? Only enough to get 40%. That's hypocrisy. And that comes from dependence on the other. I don't want to do what you are making me do. So I do it to the minimum possible. Not only that, I lie. I'll conform, I'll follow, I'll oblige, I'll obey, only to the extent verifiable. To the extent verifiable, I'll oblige and obey. But wherever things are not verifiable, which means wherever I cannot be caught, wherever I cannot be caught, I'll play myself. I'll remain who I am. That's the condition of every social being, every single social being. Our conduct does not really correspond to our deep desires. You meet a person and the audible words are, "Hello, sir. Hope you are doing well. We all missed you." Right? Inwardly, this old Rex still managed to survive the disease. You're already 82. When will you unburden the planet? Right? But you can't utter that on his face because he because he's so lovable, right? Right? Is that so? No. Because he pulls certain strings. And the day he loses those strings, maybe you will yourself very tangibly push him over the edge. No? With some nice axiom or adage, maybe. There is no point delaying the inevitable, or something like that. Why drag on, caged in this body of crumbling bones and decaying flesh, when the great mystical union is waiting for you? Hari Om. Go. 5th floor of the hospital. The fellow came to be treated. He got the ultimate treatment. And that was always in your mind. Just that it couldn't be exercised earlier because maybe his signature carried a certain weightage. Something. Now he stands retired. Now he stands demoted. Something. So that's hypocrisy. When your actions do not correspond to your thoughts and desires. And we said that comes from dependency. Dependency. And now you'll see that's the reason why a rigid kind of social framework is needed, why law and order machinery is needed, why morality is needed, why the policemen and the courtrooms are needed. Because we behave in a certain way only because of fear or greed. Inwardly, we are a different person. And if the police is not there, or the priests are not there, or if the heaven and hell concepts are not there, then we will freely express our debauched desires. Inwardly, we are someone else. Outwardly, there is a pretense of civility and politeness. No? That's why you are afraid of going to places with poor law and order conditions. Think of it. You don't say the people there are bad. You say the law and order condition is bad. And therefore, when you want improvement, you do not say, kindly improve the people. You say, kindly improve the police. You see what that means? You see what that means? You are saying, we don't bother how people are on the inside. All that we want is that they behave properly on the outside. So let there be proper vigilance. Let there be order on the streets. Let somebody patrol through the nights so that we feel safe. Or do you say the area is so chaotic and so violent? We need a philosopher there. We need a sage there. We need a thinker there. Do you say that? Had you really wanted people to change from inside, you would have asked for a teacher. You would have said, send a few good teachers to that city so that people can change from inside. Instead, we say, the crime record is only getting worse. Change the police commissioner. We don't say give that place a new teacher. We say give that place a new police commissioner. All that we want changed is conduct, behavior. We don't want the mind changed, do we? No. So let them remain as they are. That's their own personal, private self. But they should not touch me. That's all that matters. Getting this? So this hypocrisy has become the norm. And we are very okay with it. Very okay with it. It just doesn't matter to us how a person really is. What matters to us is behavior. How that person is behaving. In fact, the entire field of psychology came up with the objective of determining behavior. Because it's an industrial phenomena, the field of psychology. The factory owners, the capital owners, they wanted to know what affects the behavior of their personnel, their workers, so that they could make them do more and make them behave properly in the factories. So there were theories of motivation and such things. There was hardly any attempt, at least in the beginning then, there was hardly any attempt to know how the person is on the inside. all that was attempted to know and influence was the behavior. I don't want to know how you are feeling within. Right? I don't want to know how you are feeling within. You have to manufacture 3 shirts per day. And you must not mess with the boss. And this is the upper limit of the energy you can consume. Whatever, fuel, electricity, whatever. This is the desired output. This is the way you should behave. I don't even want to know what's cooking on the inside. That's your personal life. What I'm concerned with is your behavior on the floor. Keep that right and we'll be good. Getting it? So that is institutionalized. Hypocrisy is institutionalized. We are not even regretting it. We are demanding it. We are saying you behave properly. Inwardly you remain whatever way you want to. Now this is hypocrisy and that's what we want. And don't our elders at our places want the same? Don't our elders at our places, don't our teachers want the same? So you're here, you go to your hometown after a gap, and then you meet the elder, and you must bow down and touch their feet. Right? And if you don't do that, then there is problem. They don't even want to know whether you really respect them within. All that matters is the behavior displaying respect. Now, this is hypocrisy. This is institutionalized hypocrisy. We are actively teaching our kids to be hypocrites. We are demanding hypocrisy. Do you see this? And it works. It seems to work. For example, I'm concerned that no other phone must ring. I'm concerned that nobody should be seen gossiping. But I'm helpless in really determining whether somebody is chattering within. So I'll have to make peace with external silence. I'll have to say, see, I don't see any phones ringing right now. And I don't see anybody leaning towards their neighbors and gossiping. So probably all is fine. I'll have to say all is fine. I'm helpless in that regard because I cannot actively see who is inwardly lost and flying. How do I know? And to know that, I'll have to expend energy and attention. And that might not be the perfect kind of rationing at this moment. Maybe I need to conserve my attention for this thing rather than expend it on that one. Do you see? So it is socially institutionalized and physically very feasible. My eyes cannot penetrate your skin. Thoughts are not visible. Biology itself is promoting hypocrisy. The phone rang there. I could hear. So I could censor. But what if the mind is ringing? Can I hear? So I can't censor. Which means the limits of my sensory equipment are the promoters of hypocrisy. Had I had ears which could hear your mind ringing, I could have censored that as well. But I don't have that physical capacity. And that incapacity is the promoter of hypocrisy. Society institutionalizes it. Biology promotes it. Biology makes it possible. Biology makes it possible and society turns it into an institution. Courtrooms, you're supposed to behave in a certain way. You're not supposed to think in a certain way, right? You go to a court and you have to behave in a certain way. You have to address the judges in a certain way. That's conduct. Nowhere is it written that when you enter a courtroom, you will think in a certain way. Why is it not written? Because it cannot be verified anyway. You might as well write it down, but that will not mean anything. You can write it down. When you enter the courtroom, your thoughts must be full of respect for the judge. Write that down. Won't mean anything. Why? Because it cannot be verified. But conduct is visible, tangible, verifiable. So we live at that level. Comes from biology, institutionalized by society. Behave. Hey, behave yourself. Remember that? Do you see this? So this is the hypocrisy that the verse today is talking of. And let's take this opportunity to go deeper into it. So, actions not really corresponding to thoughts. Actions not really corresponding to thoughts. That's one level of hypocrisy. Similar to that is words not corresponding to actions. So we'll ignore that for now. Actions not corresponding to thoughts. That's one level of hypocrisy. A deeper level is when your thoughts don't correspond to the self. These are the two places at which the baton is passed, at which certain things get transmitted or relayed. Therefore, these are the 2 points at which corruption, adulteration is possible. The first point of corruption is, are your thoughts coming from the true self? Now, there can be great corruption there. The true self is one thing. It is not a thing, just for the limits of language. It is one thing. The true self is one thing. And the thoughts are in a totally different direction. The true self is complete in itself. And all thoughts are rooted in incompleteness. So that's the deeper corruption. That's the deeper hypocrisy. That's the deeper hypocrisy. And then the more superficial hypocrisy we have already talked of over the last half an hour, which is the thoughts are in one direction, but the conduct, the behavior is customized for social gains. But that is only the less deeper hypocrisy. That is the less vicious betrayal. The deeper betrayal is when thoughts themselves are betraying the self, the Atman. That is the deeper betrayal. That is the deeper hypocrisy. The deeper hypocrisy is you are not what you are thinking. And now Descartes would be turning in his grave. The deeper hypocrisy is, I am not what I have allowed my thoughts to be. That's the deeper hypocrisy. Who are you? Who are you? Either nobody, very well said, or you are all that is. Now, why are your thoughts like those of a pauper? Why? What do you inwardly lack? Nothing. And yet all the times you are thinking of pinching that, robbing that, stealing that, somehow advancing your petty interests. Is that not what our thoughts are filled of, please? Is that not what constitutes our thoughts? What else are you thinking of all the time? How to gain a little more. How to make a little more while doing a little less. How to exert less and display more. Are these thoughts coming from completeness, Purnata? Are they coming from aloneness and holiness? That's the deeper hypocrisy. That's the deeper betrayal. You are not what you have become in your thoughts. In your thoughts, you have become somebody very ugly, very little, very distorted. You have allowed your thoughts to deceive yourself. Not yourself, yourself. Not even yourself, the self. You have allowed your thoughts to run independently of the self. The self is just sitting and smiling as it always does. And the thoughts have declared independence. We are sovereign. We are sovereign. Whereas thoughts must always be subservient. In our case, there is an inner mutiny, an inner coup. These little undeserving things, they raise their own banner, their own flag, and declare themselves to be sovereign, independent. We don't care for the truth. We are on our own. The truth says completeness, so no desire. At least no desire needed for inner fulfillment. No desire is needed. But the content of all thought is just desire. Just desire. Just desire. Thought has risen in revolt against the self. That's the deeper hypocrisy. What's the superficial hypocrisy? Your actions do not match your... The deeper hypocrisy is your thoughts do not match the self. So the social person customizes action to please the social masters. The social person customizes action to please the social masters. So you told me to wear white and I am wearing white. Sir, please, sir. Sir, 2 rupees more, sir. That's the social person. Right? What does the spiritual person do? The spiritual person customizes thought to please the mental gods. And this is deeper hypocrisy. The social being is a hypocrite, so is the so-called religious being, but the religious being is a deeper hypocrite compared to the social being. The social person at least knows that there is hypocrisy. He knows very well what he is thinking and planning within. Don't you know? Don't you know? Don't you know? No. There is no need to offer dinner. I'm full. Yes, if you insist so much, yes, just a little. I mean, 4 parathas, please. That's a social person, right? No, all these colleagues, they are just my sisters. Sisters, please safe and come here, sit. You are my sister, you can sit anywhere. You come. That's a social person. This one fully well knows that he is cunning. He knows. The religious person has an incredible capacity to fool himself. He may not even know that he is a hypocrite. The social person at least knows how sick he is, because thoughts are detectable, not by others, but at least by oneself. When it comes to the self, neither the other nor this one can detect it. It is unknowable, agye. So you will not even know that you are a deep hypocrite. You will not even know. So the condition of this so-called religious person, the lok dharmi, is far worse. What does this one do? He customizes thoughts. What does the social person do? He customizes. But the religious person customizes thoughts. And it's very difficult for him to know that these thoughts are not matching the. In comparison, it is easier for the worldly person to know that his actions are not matching his, because that is detectable. You know your thoughts, you know your desires. Superficially at least. So this one, the Lokdharmi, the religious person, will customize his thoughts and desires. What will he do? He will sit down and manufacture thoughts. Manufacture tailor-made religious thoughts. He will say it is a sign of holiness to think in certain ways. He will say, these are the holy thoughts that you must have, sadvichar. He'll say good thoughts, bad thoughts. In fact, he will preach to others, no, you should not think like this. You should think like this. So their entire effort is on customizing thought itself. And that's where they succeed in a fantastic way in fooling themselves. Because they cannot know that this thought is not rooted in the self. They cannot know. Why? Because the self is unknowable. Have you seen this cult? Good thoughts, bad thoughts, think this way, morning thoughts for you, positive thoughts, holy thoughts. Now, this is the level of hypocrisy. Very difficult to diagnose and convince the hypocrite about. You'll say, but I'm having all the good thoughts. Na? So, sir, what are these good thoughts? I close my eyes and I imagine my favorite gods and goddesses dancing with each other. These are holy thoughts. And having had these holy thoughts, I'll certify myself to be holy. This is an unmatchable level of corruption, inner corruption. The social ones, the worldly ones are corrupt. But in a far smaller way. The religious ones, the active religious practitioners, are the really corrupt ones. Had we been sensible, we would have found the religious ones coming to the worldly ones for some redemption. -5 is much better than -50. -50 should come to -5 and say, Babaji, please save me. In a sensible world, Babaji should be coming to all the corporate employees and begging for redemption, because Babaji is -50. The poor corporate bugger is only -5. Far superior. He is hypocrite, but his hypocrisy is only 5 units below the surface. Babaji is 50 feet below the ground. Now visualize the man in coat and tie and with the laptop sitting on the pedestal, the podium, and 50 Babajis assembled on the floor with folded hands. That's the way it should be, actually. Because if this corporate person blesses them, they will ascend from -50 to -5. Many of you seem quite happy with the image. Hmm? Do you understand this? Action should actually come from your deep convictions. And your deep convictions should come from your deep self. That's the unobstructed flow. That must be the line of transmission from the subtlest to the gross. But our line of transmission, this supply chain, has leakages. There are points where adulteration takes place. 2 points we discussed tonight. The first point is right at the source. There is the self, and what is ensuing from the self is not loyal to the self. Thought is disloyal to the self. That is the first corruption. And then there is another corruption. Action is not loyal to thought. Since the source corruption is far more lethal, therefore that's what you must address first. The source corruption. Instead of controlling or suppressing or customizing your thoughts, look at your thoughts and see whether they are coming from the source at all. You'll find the ego at the center of thought, not self. You'll find that your thought is not at all loyal to your reality. You are a bird, and this mind is full of thoughts of securing a plot underground. Is the thought loyal to who you are? What will the bird do underground? But you are constantly thinking of that piece of land, underground piece of land. This is anarchy in the name of thought. Thought has to submit to its master. And insubmission must not be tolerated. The self must be the master of thought. And that happens the moment you see that thought is being controlled by the ego. The moment you see that, something changes. What's wonderful is, if thought is loyal to the source, that loyalty fills the thought up with such power that the thought cannot prevent itself from actualization. Thought becomes so powerful, so unstoppable, that now you cannot be a social hypocrite. To be a social hypocrite, action must rebel against thought, right? But action can rebel against thought only if thought is weak. If you are rebelling against him and he is super powerful, right? He'll simply crush your rebellion. But thought cannot be powerful unless thought is loyal to the source. And loyalty to the source gives infinite power to thought. It is not thought anymore. It is something beyond thought. And now, even if there is a great temptation, you will find you are helpless. You cannot act against your thought. This thought is now sacred. It cannot be breached. Action will now silently follow thought. Once there is a resolution, it will be adhered to. You will not find yourself failing yourself every day. Well, I thought I'll do this much today, but I ended up doing 1/3. The daily story, right? Action is failing thought. You get up in the morning and you say, today I'll do 20 units. And you close the day having done only 8. Action has failed thought because thought was not powerful at all. And why was thought not powerful? Because this thought was a betrayer. This thought was disloyal. This is some kind of tit for tat for the thought. Action is telling thought, you are not loyal to the source, why should I be loyal to you? The worker is telling the department head, when you are not loyal to the top man, why should I be loyal to you? And when will the junior one listen to the department head? When the junior one sees that the department head listens to the top man. That's the flow of power. Do you see? Is it clear? Even when we say we want to work on our hypocrisy, we want to remove it, what's the level of hypocrisy we want to address? The superficial one. Won't help. Won't help. If inwardly you are a hypocrite, external hypocrisy is inevitable. The inner hypocrisy is to allow thought to run rogue. What is thought running rogue? When thought is not coming from the truth. If not from the truth, where can thought come from? Yes, 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 conceptually, yes, but practically, thought must be loyal to truth. And if thought is not loyal to truth, what's thought really loyal to? Yes, you say, I'm thinking this way because I think this way because, not because it is the truth, but because it is the tradition, because this is the crowd, because that's the expectation of my family or my society. Now, thought is not loyal to truth. Instead, thought is loyal to tradition. And that's the deep, deep betrayal that can't be forgiven. You have entertained thoughts not because there is truth in them, but because there is tradition or fear in them. But that's the way everybody thinks. So I too am thinking that way. That's the origin of all hypocrisy. To forget the real master and let tradition or society or the body be the master. I'm thinking of doing something, not because it would serve the truth, but because it would make my husband happy. Now that's the betrayal. That's the betrayal. That's punished hmm, by life. Do you see this? And now do you see why it's important to keep examining yourself? To keep asking yourself where my desires are coming from, where my beliefs are coming from. All these are thoughts. Belief is a thought, desire is a thought. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from my rigorous investigation? Or are they coming from social pressure and physical instincts and religious beliefs? Where are my thoughts and beliefs coming from? What's the origin of my desire? Desire is thought, right? What's the origin of my desire? It's very important to keep asking these questions. If thought is coming from tradition, it will be weak. If thought is coming from a physical sensation, it will again be weak. If desire is arising as a social practice, again weak. Which means there will be no resolve. Which means thought will be feeble. Hmm? Don't you see how easily people give up? Don't you see? What does that tell you? The desire was coming from a very weak place. Therefore, you give up so easily. If thought comes from truth itself, then its surrendered thought, surrendered to the extent that it has surrendered its power to surrender to anybody except the truth, which means it is unstoppable. Which means it's a space vehicle without any kind of braking or stopping or returning mechanism. It can only rise, 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 and ultimately vanish in the space. It has surrendered its power to return. That's not the way our thoughts are, right? Feeling angry, you go to someone, I'll today beat the pulp out of this man. And there you find 4 of his brothers are visiting. And you say, hello, sir, I just came to wish all of you. What a pretty picture you make. Can I have the phone? I'll click one for you. Yeah. That is the power of our thoughts. Our love has no power. Our hatred too has no power. Look at the sole superpower of the world. Everybody hates them. But nobody does anything. Everybody says, sir, you are the most lovely man. Even our hatred has no power. Even in our hatred, we just are forced to pretend love. No? Do you understand what is powerful thought? Thought that is not coming from miscellaneous places. For the purpose of this discussion, I am calling it thought. It is not even thought, it is something beyond thought. It is the pure mind. It is unstoppable resolve. Do you see this? Now you know why your plans go unfulfilled. Because they don't come from the truth. They come from some little silly place that very easily cracks. One thing to be careful of, you are not your thoughts. Therefore, do not say, this person is behaving in a certain way, but he is really not that way, his thoughts are different. That action is the second level of corruption. Even in his thoughts, there is already the first level of corruption, which means obviously that his actions are not who he is. At the same time, his thoughts are also not who he is. So if you see a dissonance between somebody's thoughts and actions, that does not mean that the person is really his thoughts, but pretending in his actions. No, no, no. He is faking at the level of action, but at the same time, even his thoughts are another level of fabrication, another level of lie. Do you see this? You want to, the hypothesis you come from is, this person is, right? This person must be the way he acts. But when you spot a fraud, you say, no, 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 he is acting in this way. But really he is different. He is acting so sweet. But really he is quite bitter. You are right to the extent that his action is not who he is. But you are wrong in claiming that the bitterness is who he is. He is obviously not the sweetness he is displaying, but he is also not the bitterness he is carrying here. He is cheating himself not at one level, but at 2 levels. Obviously his actions are fake, but even his thoughts are fake. So don't allege that inwardly he is quite corrupt because I know his thoughts. He is corrupt not because his thoughts are bitter. He is corrupt because his thoughts are not following the truth. In anger, you often yell at the other. I know what you're thinking. I know your reality. No, sir, what he is thinking is not his reality. Obviously, what he is doing is not his reality. At the same time, what he is thinking is also not his reality. It's just that even he does not know that what he is thinking is not his reality. So, outwardly, he is duping you, and inwardly, he is duping himself. Outwardly, he is maintaining some action meant to fool the others, and inwardly, he is maintaining some thought, and this thought is fooling himself. So, he is fooling and getting fooled at two levels. You are not your actions, you are also not your thought. You are not your actions, you are also not your thought.